Shot down and he was barely 31. Another woke coward took a life with a gun. He left behind a wife and a daughter and a son. All he did was try to speak for all of us. And I'm so tired of the hatred and the narratives. The patriots ain't dangerous. Woke people are the terrorists. They shot and killed the father, sent a message to Americans. They ain't gonna stop until they bury us. Dear Charlie, I don't know if you can see us now, but if heaven has a window, I sure hope you're looking down. Cause we ain't going quiet, we gon' scream your name loud. And you're gone, but I swear to God that we gon' make you proud. We ain't backing off or giving up, I'll preach what you taught me. They may have killed a soldier, but that man had an army. This is far more deep than some political parties. And you can't kill freedom, so this one is for Charlie. This ain't the America that all our parents love, but good man tried to keep making it great. Pray that God will take care of us. The system is failing us when good men die for the things that they say. And I can't just be quiet, so I gotta be brave, cause this is America. Lately it's scaring us, but one good man can change it all in a day.
Well, that was Tom MacDonald. And yeah, I can play his song. Tom MacDonald is super cool. Yeah, all of his music, he's given permission for anybody to use for anything, whatever platform it's on. So thanks, Tom. Super cool dude. Met the guy in person. Great man. Well, as many of you know, I am Tim, and I am here to talk some shit. It has been a while. Sorry about the lighting. My schedule is crazy right now, I wasn't even planning on this return. This is not a planned return. I was planning on a return, but not right now, just because my schedule, my life is hectic, it's crazy. And so yeah, I just didn't have time for it. Been concentrating on other things other than YouTube and cyber world until I have to say that this shit popped off with Charlie Kirk, and so I wasn't even really planning on nothing like that. I see everybody else, Charlie Kirk this, Charlie Kirk that, everywhere. I mean, it seems to be the new clickbait. It's Charlie Kirk. So was not planning on making any kind of even comment on that whatsoever. Until there was some responses on my personal private Facebook. And I'll bring it all into context for y'all, because that's how I roll. I want everything to be in context. So I made a comment. Pretty simple, pretty plain. I think a lot of people probably did. On Facebook, said Charlie Kirk being assassinated has completely pissed me off. And comments were, of course, this is my personal deal. These are people I know in person. I don't have people on my personal page that I don't know in person. And the response was pretty typical, from what, I expected from people. The usual, yeah, it was a shame. It was a tragedy. It should piss me off. I'm not going to go into all these, but until we get to a couple comments, which I'm going to read off just to bring y'all up to date. So yeah, several comments, just the usual, it's horrible. What's going on is horrible. Can't believe it happened, until one friend who is on the different political spectrum. Me and him, we send messages back and forth all the time. Him more than me. I try not to get political with my friends. I try to avoid religion with my friends. I try to avoid political shit with my friends, especially if we don't agree. Kind of like sex. These are things that I don't need to exactly be 100% behind you to be a friend with yours. I don't need to know what kind of sexual orientation is you are. That what happens with that is your business, unless y'all start fucking in front of me. Your religious deals, I'm not going to pray with you or go to church with you or anything. So, you're not going to do it with me. I can pretty much promise you that. So, I don't worry about that. And political, we're not going to stand in the voting booth together. So there's really no reason for me and my friends to really get into that part. You know, we're friends over lots of other things. You know, but anyways, to bring you up to it. So I've got this one friend. I'm not going to name any names because I haven't talked to anybody. I haven't asked anybody, and I'm not going to. But they posted on my page these comments, so I'm going to put those up because the way I look at it, if you put that shit on my page, it's my fucking property. So he starts out with this one. We're going to have friend A and friend B to help y'all keep up. Friend A is the politically other side, I guess, of this friend, and then we have friend B, which is one side. So you have two different sides of this outlook with what happened to Kurt. So friend A says, and not because one's closer or not, but just because this is the order in which I'm coming up with their comments. And to bring something in perspective, these two friends of mine do not know each other at all. Not one iota. They have never met, never spoke. I've never spoke to one about the other one. They do not know anything about the other, which is hilarious to me because knowing them both, I know how much they have in common with each other. They are both alcoholics. Their words, not mine. They have both been sober for years and years and years. Super proud of both of them. I've never suffered from that, so I don't even want to know what kind of hell that is. Both of them are Caucasian. Both of them are about my age. Both of them work in the oil fields. Both of them have one child. Both of them are with a redhead. Both of them listen to the same music. They have the sound. I mean, if these two guys had not had this conversation, if they would have just met at the bar and I would have introduced them, they'd have been on it, man. They'd been playing pool, hanging out all night long, blah, blah, blah. Because both of them can still hang out with me when I'm drinking because they're sober. Good for them again. So it really struck me when I seen these two talking like this because with so much that they have in common. So, they both have, vehicles and toy vehicles. They're both pretty well off, neither one of them are, elaborately rich or, at the food stamp office. They're both in the same type deal. So how much they're really alike really was funny to me to contrast to these comments. So friend one says, and I'm just quoting these comments. Friend A says, Melissa Hortman and her husband and their fucking dog was killed by a dude who had dressed up as a cop, who had a list of 37 other Democrat lawmakers who he had targeted. I'm just curious, where was this rage then? Well, I didn't get a chance to reply to that before friend B chimed in. Friend B says, we were outraged when this happened. I am outraged any time that someone is killed for political beliefs, especially if they are peaceful. The difference is that the left is not outraged at all when it goes the other way. I did not hear conservatives cheering so what happened to that couple at all. Do you see the difference? Now, the friend A, I've got to say right off the bat, she was attacked by a fucking psycho, sociopathic serial killer type dude. I mean, this guy had a fucking list of people he was running around planning on fucking killing. Dressed up as a cop. There was some different shit in that. Two, she's a lawmaker. She's a lawmaker. She's just like a cop, a senator, congressman, president. These are targets. I don't like that they're targets. They're not my target by all means, but these are people that when they sign up for the job, they know that there is a risk that there are crazy psycho weirdos out there that want to take them out for whatever reason. So that's my reply to friend A's first comment, and then you heard friend B's comment. But of course, I've not personally responded except for till now. This is how I'm not even. I don't have the time in my life to go through and type out all the shit that I feel about this back and forth for them. So I'm just putting it all out here in this video for them. Then friend A comes back and says, on the contrary, Republican senators were making jokes, calling it a nightmare on Wall Street, openly posting memes the same way when Pelosi's husband was attacked by a hammer. You're not being intellectually sincere with your comment. Kurt died with the same sword he promoted. He just never thought it would happen to him. Don't come at me, man. Okay. So first of all, I'm going to go ahead and respond to friend A's comment before I read you what was written by friend B. But to friend A's comment, I've got to say that there was a whole thing on Pelosi deal. That wasn't like they were stalked down by somebody and killed. Her husband wasn't a big public speaker. What the fuck does that have to do with this? And that's something that I see a lot of people who are on the other side, I guess. When you start having a conversation with them, they start grabbing other things. What about this? They didn't care about this. We're talking about one thing. When you're wanting to talk about this, but that's okay. We'll do that. We can do that too. So that was Pelosi's husband. I do not believe, now I have not checked in all the facts, from what I have looked at, it had nothing to do with anybody trying to get at Pelosi, through her husband. That wasn't it. So that wasn't an attack of any kind of political thing or any deal like that. So I'm not sure why she was fucking brought in. Also, I have to be on the bandwagon when I say this. Pelosi is probably one of the most hated political people from one side or the other that I have ever seen. I mean, people either really like Pelosi or they just really, really don't. And I can see why from both views. However, this is what friend B responded with. Come at you? How am I coming at you? If I was coming at you, bro, you would know. If I was coming at you. See how fast you try to turn that into some sort of testosterone war? I'm debating you, brother. That ain't a come at you moment. And with friend B, I have to completely like that and completely agree. And that was, I think, a lot of things that people had wrong with Charlie Kirk was he could talk. He could have a intelligent conversation. He could back up his facts. He could tell you where to go find them. Don't trust me. Go look for yourselves. Learn for yourself. That's the thing that I think so many people respected about the man. He had his beliefs. He was a Christian, strong Christian. I am not a Christian. I'm not a Christian. I'm not a Catholic. I'm not a Jew. I'm not a Buddha. I'm none of the above. So he talks about those things that, like I would my friends. It doesn't concern me. Not really paying a lot of attention to it. If I wanted to, I would, but I didn't. Didn't really listen to a lot of his stuff. I just don't have time in my life for it. And I'm at the age where I know, so I really don't need this shit explained. That's why he was at colleges. He was at places that are supposed to be promoting different sorts of thinking. Constantly, think about it. Think about that. They want this thought going against that thought. That's what colleges are for. That's what you go to school for, is to learn how to learn. And I think he was doing a great job at it. None of the videos that I've ever seen that were actually through and through say anything derogatory about people. In fact, it's always been the exact opposite. He sees a lot of, me and him see eye to eye, I think, on that, on a lot of things. You're a person, I'm a person, let's stay on that, and have a conversation. And a lot of people just could not keep up, I believe, with that conversation. And like the fact that He was not only arguing against what they thought, he could tell them where to go to learn it for themselves. And a lot of people don't want out of that cage. They're comfortable, I believe, inside their little cell. You know, that's how the devil tricks you, you know. He makes you nice and comfy in that little cell. You don't want to get out. It's nice and safe in there. So that's where I stand on that one. Then he goes on to say, friend B goes on to say, dude, you're talking about Senator Mike Lee's ridiculous comments about those events, and I don't support his comments any more than I support the comments that are negative towards Charlie Kirk. But you said senators. What other senators? The only one I'm aware of is Mike Lee. And now there's articles out there about how Donald Trump didn't pay as much attention to those killings as to Charlie Kirk. That's because this is a state house speaker and she wasn't nearly as well known as Charlie Kirk. That does not mean that what happened to her and her family any less horrific, but she was not nearly as well known again. So the reaction is going to be starkly different. What sword that Charlie Kirk promoted did he also die for? If you're referring to the manipulated comments he made about the Second Amendment, then know that they have absolutely been manipulated, and the full video shows exactly what he meant when he said what he said. Now, I personally have no idea what video they're talking about. I'm a big fan of the Second Amendment. I'm a big fan of all the amendments and the commandments. Big fan of those two. Those are kind of set in stone with me and my family. I have to agree with friend B. I didn't see anybody talking about, yay, they deserved it. I personally, I didn't see it. There might have been a senator that said some shit. Evidently there was. I didn't see it. But I've seen a lot of comments about, yay, Charlie Kirk being dead and how he deserved that. And that's just fucked up. Saying that someone deserves to die for talking, for having a conversation. That's the same as saying that JFK, Abraham Lincoln, Martin Luther King, Jesus Christ, and any martyrs out there, they all had it coming. They deserved it. You shouldn't have thought like that. That right there is tyranny. That's fascism. That is everything that embodies wrong. When you try to control what people are saying, how people are allowed to think, no one's going to tell me how to live. No one's going to tell me what to do. I'm an anarchist all day long. I'll tell you. Anybody who knows you will tell me. I do. I don't. If I had my way, there wouldn't be no government at all. We all handle ourselves, but we don't live in that fantasy land where people can do that, where they're mature enough to do that. We have not hit that part in our natural evolution, I guess, where people can just be fucking people, go about their lives and be left alone. But you're sure as hell, the one thing you're never going to do is tell me what I'm allowed to think and then what I'm allowed to say. You're out your damn mind. Now, is it a good idea to go up in the middle of a Charlie Kirk candle vigil and start screaming, fuck Charlie Kirk? Probably not. You had the right to do it. There's going to be people that can't handle their emotions that are probably going to beat the brakes off of you, like they did. But you have the right to say it. Would I have beat the brakes off of you? I would have really tried not to. Say that. I'm a pretty emotionally stable individual. But if you come up spitting in people's face, basically, and disrespect. I mean, people at a funeral and you're coming there to tell them fuck the person that's being buried. I mean, that's in my book where I'm from. That's pretty much just a hey, can I get a free ass whipping? And there's going to be lots of people there. They're like, hey, it just so happens I'm a catering, and we have a whole box full of ass whipping here, and we're going to give it all to you. So, yes, you should be absolutely allowed to say whatever you want without having to worry about getting your ass beat, getting shot, getting stabbed, getting anything. And let's go on with the comments before I get carried on. Friend B goes on to say, now let's talk about Pelosi's husband and the hammer incident. Nobody deserves to be attacked with a hammer. That goes without saying. But let's don't pretend that there's not all kinds of goofiness around this event. Those two men clearly know each other, and the idea the relationship was purely a stalker towards Pelosi's husband, and that's all there was, is pretty ridiculous. At this point, have you read the transcript of the police officers that responded that night? It was clear to them that there was an interpersonal relationship between those two, not just a stalker and someone who didn't know his stalker. Pelosi's husband answered the door with the guy standing behind him, still holding the hammer, and when Pelosi's husband turned around to look at the guy took another swing. But why would you turn your back on a guy with a hammer? That is not normal behavior for someone that he doesn't know. Now, is it? And while the cops were present, the two men had a conversation following the attack, and during the arrest of the suspect, alluding to a much more personal relationship than the one that was presented to us in the media. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. I am against any kind of violence like what you're talking about, but comparing apples and oranges is like comparing a push mower to a zero-turn 48-inch deck mower. Oh, man, just hearing about that 48-inch deck mower makes my back hurt. And now, the reply from Friend A. The one that got these comments going. Friend A says, 1. Not a single conservative friend I had ever knew about the Hortmans murder. Not one. The media refused to cover it. It has been dismissed by the right. No accountability by this administration. Mike Lee still has his job. This has become acceptable. 2. There was no twisting Kirk's words. He said what he said, which was a certain number of annual deaths each year is acceptable in order to keep the Second Amendment, which protects all the other God-given rights. God doesn't want kids killed in schools. Pro-life doesn't end at birth. It means feeding them and protecting them all the way through school. 3. This comment thread started going off on trans and woke. There are more school shootings every year than there are trans kids in sports. Most kids are just trying to find out who they are, and they deserve to live long enough to make those discoveries. And then it comes out the shooter was CIS white Trump supporter, which pretty much speaks for itself. If you're paying attention to which way the political wind is blowing, Nancy, Mace, Laura Loomer, Trump himself blaming and finger-pointing. There are a lot of speculation about Pelosi and his attacker. The idea that those two know each other is pure speculation. No one knows for sure what happened that night, but Charlie Kirk called his supporters to bail his attacker out of jail. What? But Charlie Kirk called in his supporters to bail his attacker out of jail, and Eric Trump is like posting a pair of underwear along with a hammer as a Halloween costume, once again egging on the violence. The last incident happened after January 6, and Ashley Babbitt is dead because of the lies and rhetoric that this administration pushes. All of this violence is being pushed by one side, the same side that was jumping to conclusions about this specific event in particular. Charlie Kirk didn't think your daughters should be able to vote or have careers. He told women to go to college to find a husband. Black women helped put us on the moon. CK pushed propaganda. Charlie Kirk pushed propaganda for angry white men with no real education. He told you that you didn't have a job or wasn't successful because of the immigrants and DEI. He was a millionaire being funded by millionaires to keep you pissed off. He went after young, impressionable white kids. There is reason why this administration is going after higher learning. It's part of their fascist playbook. Mussolini, Hitler, and now Trump. If a person educates themselves and reads books, they will see through the lies that were told in school. Once you see what real history is, you cannot help but move closer to the center, away from right-leaning ideologies. It's inevitable, and they know it. The dumbing down of our education system started under Reagan, and it's continuing. The right doesn't want educated voters, and Charlie Kirk was part of that machine. And I put a laughy face on that fucking comment because that shit's got to be a joke. Friend A continues on a rant for a second, and we're going to finish that before I go back and respond to all this. One of the first things this administration did was go after the Department of Education. One of the things that the department did was ensure federal tax money was divided equally and fairly. This was necessary because states wouldn't spend that money fairly, ensuring that all children got a good education. Certain districts got more and others got less, which was often decided by where the lawmakers' kids went to school. It's happening with this so-called voucher program. The rich don't want smart voters. If you put a gun in the hands of a person who believes that they are on God's side and God is on theirs, there's absolutely nothing that person won't do, including die for what they believe. The rich won't be fighting this war. They're clear on their supporters. They'll cheer on their supporters. You will always find God standing with the marginalized and outcasts. You won't find him at the head of an empire or the CEO of a company. He won't be with the billionaires. He'll always be with the downtrodden. And then he went on to post a link, which I have not gone to. At this point, I'm pretty much done with that. Again, I'm going to slap a fucking happy face on that one, because we're going to have fun with that shit. And then I've responded with this. Friend A and Friend B. Of course, you both should know that I am going to chime in on these comments, as they both have their merit and flaws. However, it will have to wait for a bit later. It's a bit later. So, let's do this. Let me put all that information together real quick. I'm going to work my way up. So, schooling, and please slap in the comments whatever below if I'm wrong, what you think. I love to see what you'd like to think about it. And don't forget that this video is brought to you by the color like. The color like. Push it. It's blue. So, education. First of all, the government shouldn't be paying for schools. That's all done by the state. It's usually done through property taxes. Different states do it different ways. Some of them take it off of property taxes. Some of them do it off of state income taxes. It goes different ways how the funding for their educations come in. which is also why you will usually find better schools in newer, more upper class neighborhoods, is because they're coming from the property taxes. These people are paying on their properties. These properties have a higher tax bracket because they're in more desired areas and locations. Also, a lot of times they're bigger. You'll find that in your lower income neighborhoods, they don't own property. This property is usually owned by landowners. Lower income people can't afford to own, they rent. And to be kind of honest with you right now, it's almost cheaper to rent than to own. However, but that's the way it goes. Now, Reagan, who you were talking shit about, I personally think was one of the greatest presidents that ever lived, and I'll tell you why. For one, if him and Bush would have been able to finish what him and Bush started, I don't think we'd have half this bullshit that we have going on. But Reagan brought in a lot of the federal funding for schools. Maybe you remember Nancy Reagan and their whole stop the war on drugs and help the education, which was then backed up even more by the George Bush administration with the No Child Left Behind Act. Well, first of all, it all helped with a lot of now they started getting federal funding. The federal funding came in. The states can't really do everything, okay? The counties and everything, they can't really do everything. So they go to the government and they say, hey, can you help subsidize? Subsidize is a word that we use. Can you sprinkle a little good stuff on there? Just a little extra, kind of get a little Parmesan on that, okay? So they said yes, and that's where you get your federal funding at, okay? This isn't a socialism. It's not a communist party. It ain't what you get, I get, you get. That ain't the way America works. America is those who work the hardest get the most. Those who work the least get the least. That's the way it is. If you want to eat, you need to hunt. If you sit at home, you're probably going to starve. That's the American way. We don't mind helping people up, but just helping you out nonstop 24/7 because you deserve it, because it's your right. There's no right for that. You have the right to live peacefully. You have the right to speak. You have the right to think. You have the right to believe and worship what you want to. You do not have the right for anybody to support you. That's up to you. If you want better for you and yours, go get better. You get a better education. You get a better job. You move to those communities where you want to live in. And that's what's going on right now with a lot of this. People want to change what's around them. It's, like California moving to Texas. I hear a lot of my Texas friends talking about that, about Californians moving to Texas. For the majority, from what I've seen, the Californians that are moving to Texas are Texans. They were just stuck in California. They were. Now on to... Oh, you got me on hot one. So we got that one out of the way real quick. But I'm glad I got that one taken care of. Now you want to talk about... Oh yeah, let's get on the God thing for a second. God's with everybody. Period. He's with rich, poor. He ain't just with the downtrodden and those that are in need, and that ain't the way God